Well, I missed what you say. You funny,
We ain't got
man.
no warrants out there. Get out of town.
Oh my goodness. No way.
All right, we are live. Let's get this party started real quickly with some mood music. All right. We are excited to be here for week 39 of What Did Prince Do This Week? I'm excited because we have an incredible, amazing guest. I can't wait for us to chop it up with none other than Jesse Jenkins.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're going to turn the music down just a little bit, even though I don't want to.
This sounds real smooth. You now listen
Is
to
Eric Leeds?
Yes, Eric Leeds and Paul Peterson.
Of course.
From No Words, LP Music in the house.
Shout out to LP Music. I got a chance to see them at the in 2016 at Paisley Park, I believe they went out there. And yeah, they were amazing.
Awesome. So we got to say hello to our peeps. So welcome April from Tampa, almost always the first in the chat. We also have KMS 1984. Hello, Purple Saints. Love that. And we have our first ATLian of the day. We always have multiple ones. So welcome, Cassandra. And yes, like I said, our second ATLian, we got Kim in the house.
Man.
Shout out to the ATL. Wow.
Yeah, ATL be representing, Jesse. That's what's
dope.
up. We got Mila. Good morning. We got Nick Felden. We got Audria, again, sporting the Diamonds and Pearls singles box set. Love that. We got Love Sexy. Where's my button? That wasn't loud enough.
There it is. Ho. You gotta do the ho at the end.
Yes. We got Purple Cat Confetti. We got Man Ray in the house. Happy Purple Rainy Saturday from New York City. Had to get anywhere yesterday, indeed.
Yeah, are you okay? I just saw all about that. Our event was actually canceled. We had an event at the space, but it was canceled due to the flooding in New York. So
yeah,
shout out to New York.
Let the rain come down. Or maybe not.
Days.
Right.
We got Myron. We have my literature brother, Blade Brown. We got Peaches in full effect. Love that. We got DC in the house with AJK 132. We got Byron B. We got TP. We got... Oh, good morning, Jesse. Met you at the Armory.
Good morning, Cassandra. Okay, cool. That was fun.
Yeah, we got Stephanie Mills.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
We got a good afternoon, Jesse. It's good to see you.
All right. Good afternoon, rather. It's 12 o'clock. Gee whiz.
It's morning over here.
Oh, that's right. Word.
Chip and Sparrow, welcome. I love your exclamation points, Marilyn. Olga, welcome from Cali. We got Cali representing. You're going to find out all about the gentleman in the braids, Byron B.
Oh, no.
That's
like, who's this?
Jenkins.
Y'all get a lot of people that watch this thing. That's right. Ooh.
Yeah. We got Web Diva, Vanessa. Welcome.
What's up, Vanessa?
We got Stone Freak. All right. So we're going to get this party started and take care of our housekeeping because we want to get into it. So if you don't know, this is What Did Prince Do This Week, but I know you know that already. We're week 39, and Michael Dean says, I can believe it's 39, but I can't believe it's 39 weeks into it. And the state of Prince Rogers Nelson is not affiliated or associated with the What Did Prince Do This Week book club series, blah, blah, blah. We're going week to week, not date to date. If you don't know what that means, that's okay. You'll figure it out one day. And this is a detailed schedule. You can find it at this bit.ly link or use the QR code. And we're a little slow today, but we're going to get out. This is what we're reading. We're reading the expanded edition. You don't need it, but that's what the reading's based on. And look, we got Tanja in the house. We got Lee Christian in the house. We're gonna put Jesse in the middle.
Jesse in the middle.
Jesse.
Oh, money in the middle. Money in the middle. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And let's see. Go back.
I wish I had the book, but I have been following along with you all. So
yes, it's okay. It's okay. A lot of people have told me in the chat we ain't getting the book, but we'll still.
Damn.
God
We
damn.
ain't getting the book.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dwayne.
Yeah, shout
Shout out to Dwayne for sure.
Yes, I've had so many I've had people tell me I'm not reading. Like you can't make
Yeah. I do get that a lot with people. Yeah.
So, however they could get with us is fine.
All right. Yeah,
It's
I
all
know
about-
sometimes people be purple.
Stop. I love this comment from Lee Christian, Jesse in the middle, an unreleased time track.
Hilarious.
That would be pretty cool. And then let's see, we got Real Line the DJ. Welcome. Who do you have on your? Who's that?
Edna Wright.
I don't know Edna Wright. You're gonna have to school us, Real Line to DJ. But that's one of the reasons why I love doing this every week. I always learn something new. Put on some light, a little dark, and then look at Tanja balling.
Ooh, nice.
On a flight headed to see Beyonce and the Latin Luther.
Where my ticket?
Welcome, Theo. Happy Saturday Slay. So I'm sure Beyonce is performing somewhere tonight. She's been performing everywhere, every day.
Kansas City. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Awesome. And we almost finished with the housekeeping. So these are going to be archived on my YouTube channel. And I just love this part. All right, I'm prolonging the housekeeping, but I can't help it. So these will be archived at Polished Solid on YouTube as well as at MDean. Please subscribe, like, and help spread the word because it's all about Prince. That's why we're here. This is why we've been doing this every Saturday and will be for years as long as we are alive. We'll see how that goes. All right. Hashtag WDPDTW for What Did Prince Do This Week? We are listening to Pyramid Scheme. Let me use my kinder, gentler voice for that person who doesn't like my high voice. And this is composed by Eric Leeds and Paul Peterson. And we got a special piano solo from Peter Schmidtke. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't know. And we have Kareem Austin joining us. Welcome. You are here just in time. We're about to set it off. And we are week 39 of What Did Prince Do This Week? All right, look at this week. And the reason why it's in red is because Dwayne says Prince probably wasn't in the studio when a copy was made of Irresistible B. I love this part here. Let's ride out.
Yeah.
Oh, incredible. Nice. Yes. And you got Paul Peterson on the bass. He is killing it on that song. I mean, all over this album. So we are grateful for both Eric Leeds and Paul Peterson for continuing to give us the music. All right. So we're at the end of September. And just to give a super fast recap of September, Prince made 21 studio visits and tracked 4 songs. In asterisks, meaning like that's what Dwayne thinks in terms of his research. All right, so we only have one day we're going to talk about, and then we're going to actually transition and talk to Jesse about Mentor Newark and the fantastic exhibition that they have there that was curated by some brilliant high school students. So I can't wait to talk about it. But before then, we are going to talk about this copy made of Irresistible B on Wednesday, September 28th, Sunset Sound Studio 1, even though Prince has been recording in Studio 3, and it was only 30 minutes. And more than likely, again, Prince wasn't in attendance, and engineer Peggy Mack was the one. So, Michael, I'm going to let you do the reading duties this week. Can we turn children to page 179? It's going to be a very short read. And Michael is going.
1 second, Pastor.
Everybody get their books out.
Dink and ding. All right. All right, all glory. All right, let me stop playing. You're struck down. All right, Wednesday, September 28th, 1983. Where were you then? Irresistible Bitch, copy made. We'll start with the quote. He was a genius, and it was an incredible experience to watch him work. He worked constantly, and it was really grueling. He'd leave, and you'd get maybe a day off, and then you'd be put on another session because he wasn't doing it just his own, because he wasn't doing just his own stuff. That's Peggy McCreary. Peggy McCreary made 2 cassettes of the B-side for Prince's next single, Irresistible Bitch. He may have dropped by to pick up the cassettes, but he probably didn't attend this brief afternoon session in Studio One. With all the music needed for the Revolution's live portion of the movie finished, Prince flew back to Minneapolis, where filming was scheduled to start in a month. October was going to be very busy, with final rehearsals, recasting the female lead, and the script changes that would come with the new character. He would also spend the month working on music for the other artists in the film, The Time, Jill Jones, and the as yet unnamed girl group replacing Vanity 6. All the prep work for the year was about to test Prince in a manner he'd never before experienced. If it failed, it could set him back and derail any momentum he had from 1999, potentially turning his name into a punchline. If it was a success, it would make him a superstar. Either way, he was entering uncharted waters. Punchline, though?
Yeah, I have mixed thoughts about this. I mean, one, I also see like a third path. Like it could have been like more of a cult film, meaning like, you know what I mean? And I think actually if it would have went the original Dreams direction and had Vanity in it and it was a little darker, it probably would have been more like a cult film. But
it could have been and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but it could have been a Prince musical version with the same success and notoriety as Penitentiary 2 or something. Like, yeah, we would have loved that movie. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Either way, we would have loved it. Whether or not it went pop or not. Kind of what I was talking about last week. If he would have just stayed, if he hadn't went pop and just was super black famous. And he, you know what I'm saying? Like, we would have still been going to the concerts. We would have still been buying the albums. That wouldn't have changed nothing.
Yep, indeed. So we got more people joining us. So many folks. We got Tracy Humphrey.
Shout out Tracy.
It's a little garbly now. Is it me or is it just?
I heard that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is my microphone?
You were fine. Did you do anything to change it? Because it's like a little garbly now.
Did you check your connection or something?
That's much better. Whatever you did.
Is it okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's much better because it was like hissing a lot. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Tanja is saying we did a tour of set locations from Purple Rain in LA last Saturday, led by Tregois.
Nice.
We planned it all out. That is so dope. Welcome, Tanya. Oh, I love Lee Christian. It's a voice box. Yeah, it did sound like a voice box. I love that, Lee Christian. And Karen says tomorrow's October 1st, so we're on point with the reading. Yes, we are.
October already.
Already. Believe it.
I'm happy for it.
It's the month for the Diamonds and Pearls Super Deluxe.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Absolutely.
I can't wait because I'm one of those folks that I'm not listening to the tracks beforehand. I haven't heard anything because I'm like Yoda. I have patience.
Lord.
Wow. So you haven't heard any of the tracks that were released?
Nope.
Allison, Through the Looking Glass, Insatiable, none of that.
Nope.
Oh, wow.
I have not because I want to listen to it in its totality, not all in pieces. I want to experience it all at once. And Blade Brown says, I couldn't resist.
I think at one point I was like that. I think with Artificial Age, I remember when that came out, there was something where some of the tracks came out before, and I'm like, I want to wait, and I did actually wait. But this time around, it's like, we'll just play it.
Yeah. And so I'm definitely going to see the Princess show if it's still going on because of everything that's going on in New York. They may cancel it because a lot of things have been canceled because the subways were all messed up yesterday. I don't know. I haven't checked to see what's going on today, but I don't know. We might not be able to see Princess, but I got my ticket. And Panic Survival. Yes, I am a nerd. I'm such a nerd. Yes. So
I'm a Prince crackhead. I need it. I need that hit.
I need it.
Somebody got to get another hit. Tap it right in. Oh, get Blue.
Get Blue. Oh man, I'm so glad that was re-released. That was like a trip into memory lane hearing that again. I mean, when I first heard that, I was like, man, so it sounds wonderful.
And let's see, I got somebody with me. TP, I'm the same way. I haven't listened to anything on purpose. I hate when I've heard everything before I have it in my hands. It takes a joy out of it for me. But again, we have other folks that are with Mr. Dean.
Don't take the joy out of it. I get the joy when I hear it, whenever I hear it.
Right, whenever I hear it, it's like, here it is. And I'm definitely going to listen to it in the context of the album. Don't get it twisted. Sure. You know, like we're going to listen to it again, but it's just like, it's just it's an appetizer almost. That's how I look at it. It's belonging to a piece. I'm not going to disregard the whole thing. I'm going to listen to the whole thing. So if I can get something before it comes, I'm going to listen to it. You know,
it's like somebody, what you don't want this rib? Yeah. Well, I'm going to wait till it's time to eat. Get this rib right. You know you're hungry. I know you're starving.
Oh my God.
Right.
Oh my
God.
God.
Right, Grandma. I'll take a little bit.
So, Tanja, thank you so much. Again, I love doing these because we just get real-time information. Mia just posted it's still on for tonight. So that's where I'm going to be tonight. I'm going to be rocking Princess at Pier 17. That's where they're going to be. And I love Kim is saying in terms of, the songs that have been released already, these are just crumbs. The Christian is saying, I get joy in the repetition.
Word, right.
And then TP is saying, I like listening to albums in context and not piecemeal. TP is with me. Yes. And then Kim says, I'll be ready for the whole cake. And I don't know what this stands for because I'm not into my...
Rolling on the effing... No, I don't actually know. I thought it was rolling on the floor, but never mind.
I'm a little slow, Panic.
On the floor, laughing my ass off. I don't know.
Yes, I think that's it. Rolling on the floor. Yes, you got it. Okay, somebody understands. Get Blue after 7, ready or not. Do you know what that means? I don't know. What? So Tracy is saying, well, don't ask Alexa to play Prince because she's playing the release tracks. That's true. I'm sure my mom is already listening to it because she was like, I just listened to Prince and they were playing this and I never heard of it on Alexa. So that's good that Alexa's playing the non-hits. And then...
And I don't think the album was released as well. The Atmos.
The remaster, yeah.
Remastered album of
Atmos. It's awesome. I heard things I did not hear before in a lot of those songs. It's crazy.
So how are you listening to your Atmos? Like, I don't know what an Atmos setup looks like.
Well, me personally, I didn't realize it, but my phone actually has Atmos on it. So I just plug my headphones in. And thunder all through the
Through the
night.
night. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
So what kind of phone do you have, Michael?
Say it again.
What kind of phone do you have?
Oh, what the Samsung
Okay.
Galaxy
Yeah.
20 something.
Yeah. Cool.
That's definitely not with the Apple phones. But I have Tidal. That's how I've listened to it through Atmos.
Got it. All right, so I'm going to like really go through this. Is all we're going to talk about for what did Prince do this week, and then we're going to transition to the purple word in the purple worlds, and we're already doing that. So we're not going to talk about that because we've talked about that for a gazillion times. And the reason why we have Jesse with us today is we've been talking about this incredible exhibition at Mentor Newark, which is the Rich Benson collection that was curated by a lot of amazing high school students. And Jesse was their mentor. But before we get into it, I wanted to talk a little bit about, is it David Tire? David Tire. So I want to talk a little bit about how you got into the project. And again, this is on the slide deck. So everyone should know that the slide deck is on the book club website. And for those of you who don't remember where the book club website, where it's located, is bookclub.polysolid.com, is at the bottom of the page. And if you click on it, sometimes it will take you places. So we're not going to do this because we got Jesse with us. It's a great photo, Jesse.
Yeah,
photo.
Thank you.
So talk to us a little bit about how you got involved in, well, okay, let's back up a little bit. We're not going to do the whole, like just give us like the Cliff Notes version of your Prince connection, because you have a real Prince connection. And the reason being is you were on Michael Dean's podcast.
Listen to the interview I did with all of it has changed since then. I mean,
yeah.
But, I used to make Prince videos online. Dr. Funkenberry sent me a message, told me that Prince was watching those videos and that I would likely be contacted by him, which happened shortly after. And it was like a new world for me. You know, I just got into the Prince community and I would review Paisley Park shows that I attended. And I moved to Minneapolis in 2015 because I'm like, I can't be, because I lived in Texas at the time. I first saw Prince at South by Southwest in 2013. And obviously that was my first time seeing him. They arranged it to where I could meet him, and it was like a life-changing experience. And I was just in the Prince world, and I decided to move to Minneapolis 2015, working with him up until his transition in April 2016. That's the long and short of it.
Thank you. Yes.
Wow.
Yes, indeed. So talk to us about how you got involved with this Mentor Newark Prince exhibition, and also your relationship with Rich Benson, who's providing all of the material.
So Rich Benson is a friend of mine I met, obviously, when I lived in Minneapolis, and he has this large collection of Prince material, from posters, newspaper clippings, just a lot of material. And I wanted to, so he basically reached out to me and said, hey, can you sort of like help the students narrate this Prince exhibit? So we got all of his collection and we went into the space, and the students did not know much about Prince, like a lot of folks, unfortunately. A lot of them are in high school. All of them are in high school, actually, juniors and seniors. So they're like, well, what do we do? So my whole thing was just to figure out what their music palette was to begin with. And a lot of them obviously listen to rap, hip hop, but some folks were like, well, I like rock. And so I would cater what to give them based off of what they told me they enjoyed to listen to. But I had them all start off with an instrumental album, that being Expectation and News, just to, get into Prince before the words. Because honestly, if you playing Prince, for somebody who's never heard of Prince, especially a young person, it's really hard to know where to start. But I think the music, without him kind of giving you what he's saying, gives a good entry point. And so it was from there we sort of built a narration through their current artists that they listen to, and connecting how Prince inspired pretty much anyone who's in the music industry now. They wouldn't even deny that Prince is an influence because how much he's contributed to the music industry. So, so they basically crafted quotes, and they helped put out all of the posters on the walls. And so it was a really interesting insight for me, having worked with Prince. Prince was like a mentor to me. I didn't really know how this experience would all flush out before, because Rich just presented it as an opportunity to basically talk about Prince, which is fairly easy for me. I've talked about him for a while and I enjoy talking about him, but it's interesting to see how the youth have a different relationship with Prince, as I have a different, like everyone who's a Prince fan reaches Prince differently. And I think it's just really cool that this exhibit kind of talks about all those different experiences, because not all of them are the same. Not all of them are treated with like how we would treat a song. They look at it like, oh, this sounds like something from, Britney Spears or the Backstreet Boys, because their interpretation of music is not how we interpret it. So it's just like, go on that journey with Prince. And a lot of them have accepted that journey. And I feel like that is cool, to see the youth just engaging with Prince.
Indeed. And like one of the quotes that really stood out for me is this one by Alexander Brumal, if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, which is on the wall. When it comes to Prince, I've noticed his visual artistry more than his music. Yes. And that's an aspect of him that's had the most impact on me.
Yeah. And I'm glad that quote was featured, because Alex is a really like all about presentation. He's all about fashion. And I think one of the interesting moments for me is like pulling out these posters and people looking at Prince for the first time throughout all of the eras. And they're like, whoa, like, oh, like what? Whoa, like, because like, if you think about it, Prince was out there, like, and especially at that time, it's kind of interesting how he was able to do it so proudly. And it just, he owned it. And it's just something to look at for the first time. So a lot of them didn't know how to really receive it, because they're like, wow, he's so provocative. Is it just for show? But then they see him perform and it's like, oh no, he's actually, he can actually play guitar. The guitar is just not a prop. But he did use his image, his visual aspect has definitely been, I think, the most interesting, how people correlated to his belief, because his visual representation was not always aligned to what people would perceive of how he actually believed of himself or how he identified in the world. But yeah, it's very interesting.
So I actually took photos of all of the comments from the students, and I'm not going to show all of them. And I actually removed where they went to high school and all that, and I'm not showing their images or anything. But I did want to share some of the words, and I want to kind of continue with Alexander's because I thought they had some really interesting things to say. So I am going to read these, and because I think it's important that these students took time out of their lives to really connect with Prince and, do this incredible exhibition. I can't say enough about how incredible it is. So if you're in the tri-state area, you should definitely go and see it. It's really awesome. So this is Alexander. When it came to art in general, my favorites always changed with the years. I've had the chance to slow down and sit with these artists recently and think about what about them made me, me. I love that. What made me, me. And when it comes to Prince, I've noticed his visual artistry more than his music. And that's an aspect of him that had the most impact on me. The way he dressed and presented himself, the way he performed, spoke, and expressed himself was described by many as experimental, controversial, and mostly androgynous. You don't even hear the term androgynous a lot anymore. But that was really going around a lot when Prince was out. And I love that Alexander knows this. And Alexander continues and says, I saw that he was confident in both his gender and the expression of it. He knew who he was and what defined him. And I adapted that to myself, not letting others and their thoughts create me, open a world of possibilities, of expression, of creation, and of existence. I think those are some powerful words from Alexander, who is a high school student.
Yeah, shout out to Alexander for that.
Yeah, indeed. And let's see, one of the things that I loved is when you come into the exhibition, the first thing, well, if you look straight ahead, the first thing that you see are these albums and 12 inches on the wall. And I just love seeing that, especially for the students to see all the output that Prince created. Also that they're seeing vinyl, even though I know they probably still could care less. But sometimes you get some younger people who get into vinyl. And so I'm curious, have you heard of any of the students who helped curate want to maybe start a vinyl collection, or
yeah, they love the vinyl. I mean, this was one of the things that they really connected with, is all of these different things. Like, wow, he slayed in that one. Look how he's like, his eyebrows are, talking about how he looked really cool and just like he owned the look. And so a lot of them did want to start collecting vinyl because, and this is Rich's collection. So he clearly doesn't have all of the vinyl that Prince has done, because that wall would have not even been able to fit it all. But I mean, it's just still a peek into how much creative control he had over not just the music, but how he presented himself and how he had that. That was one of the most compelling components about Prince, is that it wasn't just the music. It's like my whole industry, who I am, my name, my symbol. You can't use it. Like when he was around, and a lot of us remember, like when Prince was here, you couldn't listen to it on YouTube. I mean, you couldn't listen to it on Spotify. You had to go on Tidal. It was very tightly controlled. And that is something a lot of people don't have to deal with now, because we are so used to everything being widely available. But when Prince was here, if you didn't know somebody who knew somebody, you better ask somebody, because that's it.
Yeah, indeed. And let's see what's Tracy saying. Amazing exhibit and organization. I'll be going again with my sister next Friday, because Tracy was there when we were there for the opening.
And we've added a lot more stuff too. So like, I encourage people who went the first time to come again, because there were more posters added and just more interactive aspects to the exhibit that people can contribute to.
Awesome. And so you're breaking up a little bit. Like it's, it's kind of it's not garbly. It's just like
it's probably my microphone.
That's
now. Do you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Yeah, that's much better actually, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So my mom and aunt and sister are coming at the end of the month, and I really want to take them to the exhibition. So what are the exhibition hours? Is it only open on the weekends, or only?
So they've changed. They're working on a more consistent hour schedule, because, like I said, we had an event planned for yesterday, which was canceled because of the flooding. And today there's an event just with the parents of the students. So they haven't really fully developed a schedule as of yet. That's going to be more known by next week.
Okay.
But I know that we have plans to have, there's going to be several things around the Diamonds and Pearls release that they want to have there. We're trying to have live music also, so that folks can play and come in, so that it's just not one thing. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the schedule yet, because that's being worked on. But by next week, I would know.
Yeah. If you don't mind sharing that, so I can actually share it with everyone here, that would be incredible. And also, I want to come back out and support, and particularly if there's any live music, for sure. So I want to actually read some of these quotes, and after I read, I'll read one student's, and then if you don't mind, talk a little bit about maybe the album that you gave them, because I know that you gave them curated playlists, depending on the students and the students' tastes, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. And I also love that you started them off with instrumental Prince, and that you started them off with Expectation and News. I just think that is just so brilliant of you to do that, because after you read all of these quotes, you took the right approach, because you just couldn't like barrage them with like
Erotic City,
yeah,
You Can Funk or something,
yeah, that wouldn't have been a good look. So I'm grateful for how you handle it with each of the students. So this is from, is it Delisha?
Delisha, yeah.
Delisha Dixon. And Delisha writes, I am a 17-year-old African-American girl. My experience here was amazing and inspirational. And I love this. This is a thread you'll see throughout several of these. I had known who Prince was because of my mother and grandmother, who were his biggest fans. So we have to, talk to the children, get them, keep them aware of Prince. So it's so important to do that. My word has impacted and contributed to this project because I supplied some knowledge on Prince from what I have learned from my mother and grandmother. Awesome.
I love that connection. So she was like, she knew about Prince through proxy of her mom and her grandmother. And even though, and she was one of the people who didn't really identify with Prince. Like, she's like, oh, what's he doing this? I don't like it. Very vocal about her dislike about a lot of the songs, but she could see when she saw him perform, it was like, okay, yeah, he hit that. Like, he slayed that. Like we're doing a solo or doing a piano solo or him singing. I think a lot of people really identify with that a lot more than the album tracks themselves, because I understand it in a way. With Prince, you have to be willing to go on a journey. You can't just put on a hit, especially if it's your first time. If you don't know the concept behind that, it could be a lot, especially if you're not a fan of the music per se, or if you're just reaching him through the album, like Purple Rain, which is what a lot of people listen to first. So it took her a while to really, and her thing was more so like, the instrumental stuff, like she really liked the Expectation. She liked how it was just like, it made me want to like do my homework. I'm like, well, that's good, But yeah.
That's great. And I'm going to finish this. I also helped with the art pieces and taking them out and taking photos of them for inventory. I helped pick what Prince ideas and certain aspects of his life were going to be in the exhibit, along with what food was going to be served. I also talked about a comparison to Prince and other artists and my thoughts on Prince's life and music. I wouldn't listen to Prince's music now because it's not my taste, but I would recommend him to someone else that may like his style of music.
Respect, man. I respect that.
Yeah. I love honest people, and I love people with opinions.
Me too. Exactly. It's not like she's just kissing his ass, so because it's like Prince didn't do that too, and that's the thing. It's like Prince was honest about what he disliked. He had no problem saying, I love No Doubt, but they can't jam. That's a shade, but that was his honest opinion, and I think he respected you when you did that. And I remember sometimes when I would make my video reviews, I was sometimes nervous about reviewing certain songs because I'm like, I'm not going to be easy on this track. But Prince never had a conversation with me like, take that down, like you shouldn't. It was never that. And I think he really respected what you really thought. He might not, it's not going to change his action per se, but it's like, okay, well, if you don't dig that, I'm going to put something on the next record that's going to make you crazy. And you're like, all right, compromise accepted. So.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're saying that, because I get into it with other people, Michael Dean, some of my other friends.
Words.
About like, I don't like all Prince songs. I mean, I love his music. I love him as a live musician. And I don't know, like, I'd rather talk about the music than Prince as a person, because I unlike you knew Prince. I only got to meet him once, and it was like very, very quick. It wasn't very long, and I've always just connected to Prince through the music. So when I talk to my students, I always tell them that their art and who they are as a person, for me, are two different things. So whenever I critique, because that's how I teach class, we do studio critiques. I say, what I'm about to say is not a reflection of who you are as a person. I'm only talking about your work in order to make it better. And so if you can't talk about, how you feel about a piece of art, I don't know exactly what you can talk about, because like it can't, all of it, as my grandma would say, isn't peaches and cream. And we all have our preferences. So but what I'm finding, with a lot of students, so I'm curious to hear from you, Jesse, especially since you were working with high school students is that they're very hesitant to critique. They don't like doing that, and it's getting harder and harder every year. And like one of my favorite examples is I had this project and students had to print these posters, and they literally had to print the posters, and they pay for them with their own money and all that. And one of the students had made a typo on, and the other student, told me another student told me in confidence that they had seen the typo. And I was like, well, why didn't you tell them? And, they were like, well, I didn't want to hurt their feelings. But I was like, now they're going to have to spend more money to reprint these posters because of this freaking big typo. I was like, you're not doing anything negative by pointing out that there's a typo. You're actually doing them a service. So how was it with you in terms of were they open to getting feedback about their ideas? And
oh, absolutely. And I mean, I love that you mentioned this story because I think criticism is very important and it's lacking incredibly because people are so afraid to step on people's toes. But again, Prince said what he thought. I mean, and he was stepping on anyone's toe. He didn't care. He was like, this is how I felt. And I think we can model that same energy. And they definitely had criticisms. I mean, honestly, a lot of the criticisms for Prince were like they didn't know sometimes within his ambiguity, the way he presented himself. They're like, well, how did Prince feel about the LGBTQ community? Or how did Prince feel about women? How did Prince really feel about religion? And these were questions that they could have just through how Prince presented these ideas to his music. And they were not afraid to say, hey, I don't like this. I rather listen to something that's more aligned to, the beat I'm going for. And again, Prince, when he lived his life, he had a lot of things to say. But ultimately, one of the quotes we have featured in the exhibit is that we could debate his worldview forever, right? Because he had a lot of different ideas and we're not going to agree with that. But what we can understand is that if you listen to his music, he presented all those ideas, whether we accepted them or not. It was his journey, even like when you listen to an album like The Rainbow Children, which is another album that is a very important album in terms of how Prince presented his faith and how he presented his belief. I think that's an album they really liked. They really appreciated the narration with the dark
I love voice.
Because I'm like, yeah, they was like, this sounds okay. I see what he's doing with that. And even though I don't agree, even though this is like, I would never be a Jehovah's Witness, I appreciate that he shared that. And I think that's one way we could assess Prince and any artist, really. Like, they're going to have aspects about their lives that we don't agree with. They're humans, they're flawed, and we should call that out when it comes out, because these contradictions show up in the music. Like, when people engage Prince, they're seeing him do this stuff, and then they're listening, they're like, wait, but is he, So
when you say that, what were they saying?
So a specific event. Speaking of Diamonds and Pearls, the video to, what is it, Daddy Pop? With the choreography where Prince is laying down and he has yellow on. This was on your Arsenio Hall show.
Yes.
What I'm
I've seen this on Twitter. Go ahead.
Yeah, Twitter, exactly. And they've seen it on Twitter too. So they're like, but he say how you feel about gay people? And yeah, he doing this. Like, yeah, it's like, and Prince, and I mean, this is a choreography he did anytime he performed the song. So, I mean, it's not just like this one isolated event. This is how they see it. And so I think they looked at that, they looked at how, and then, for Prince, his faith, Prince, if you think about his music industry or his career in general, he spoke a lot about labels, but he also spoke a lot about his faith. Those were the two things he mainly maintained, especially. I mean, later on, he went back to, owning your masters, but especially when he became a Jehovah's Witness, that was something he spoke about all the time. It was like, this is how I center myself. And even before he became a Jehovah's Witness, God was clearly something of importance to him. And so that had a lot to do with how he saw the world and how he had his framework. And so it doesn't excuse it, but it does give context to, a man born in 1958, belonging to a Seventh Adventist church. There are a lot of correlations that make sense, that check off why he would think that. But I don't think he minded those that honestly criticized him about those things. And I think more people would benefit if they did that than to idolize him or make him this sensational unicorn figure that's not capable of being human. I mean, Prince corrected his, even like towards the end of his journey here on Earth, I feel like he made the steps to, you know, talk to those in the past and to kind of make it clear that, yeah, I've done a lot. You know, with Morris Day is a great example at the Piano Microphone Gala when we had Morris Day perform. And Morris Day talks about how they were bonding at that moment. They told each other they loved each other throughout all the trauma and craziness that Prince put Morris through. And, you know, they were able to kind of have that that meeting. So I feel like Prince did that in some way.
It's interesting that younger fans or younger people, as you said, sort of see some of the contradictions, and just I think it's great that they at least ask the question like, well, wait, I thought and I think it maybe sparks the conversation. You know, what was behind that? What was the context of that? I think one thing too, they may appreciate, you brought up Rainbow Children. Prince was 10 toes down on whatever he was talking about. Like, he wasn't wavering. This is what it's about. Deal with it. It is what it is. And I think that's something people can appreciate. Again, whether they agree with it or not, he's committed to it. Whatever this is, it ain't wishy-washy. You know what I'm saying? So that's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that I love that you said, Jesse, and I think that sometimes we forget this, is that Prince was a man of his time, meaning, you know, like, and we all are. And so you have to put it into context when people are born, what their upbringing was. It has a lot to do with their worldview. And then obviously it changes over time as we all mature. And no one is static. We're always ever evolving. And Prince was too, because Prince was a human being. So I really appreciate what you're saying. So I want to actually read another quote from, is it Dana?
Dana. Mm-hmm.
Dana Prado. And Dana says, I'm a current senior. I'm involved in this project because my teacher introduced me to this opportunity. During the summer, I helped curate ideas and assemble pieces and items that would be presented at the exhibit. A few of the ideas that I have helped come to life, hopefully, include the presentation of the photo booth, the presentation of the dining experiences, design features to overall make whatever gathering event that will take place special and catered to their needs. Prince's makeup tutorial, Prince-inspired merch, a map of the world where Prince has visited, and the purpleology meal. Now, this is where, when I was reading this, I was like, okay, these students know their music. And Dana says, when we talk about Prince, we need to also bring up Carlos Santana and Led Zeppelin, because their influence encouraged Prince to become Prince, with all caps. With the guitar riffs, guitar performances, and overall personal style, Prince had also influenced people with his style and performance. I was so blown away when I read that from Dana.
Yeah, and she heard Lotus Flower. She was interested in, you know, something that was more rock style. So I recommended Lotus Flower and Chaos in Disorder. And she's like, wow, I can really hear the Carlos Santana. And I'm like, yeah, I'm glad she mentioned Carlos, because, you know, obviously people talk about Jimmy, and Jimmy clearly is there, but Carlos is really there. You listen to Carlos Santana and you hear Prince, it's like, oh, I see where Prince is like. The it's just all there. Like, you can just hear the influence. And so she really was able to connect with that. And it reminded me how Prince, when I did the tours at Paisley Park, he was really important. It was really important for him, for me to quiz the people coming through to see the people who influenced him. Because he had the wall where it's like those on the right were the people who came after him, and then those on the left came before him. And so he really wanted people to name the folks that were there. You know, Joni Mitchell, George Clinton, Earth, Wind and Fire, James Brown. Like, clearly know their names. Because those were the instrumental folks, you know, to his creative career.
So this morning, Michael, I don't know why, but your video keeps like stalling. Yeah, it hasn't happened before, but today it keeps, I don't know, you keep freezing. Just FYI.
I'm doing it on purpose.
I was wondering if it was just me. I was like, is that just me?
Really? Maybe I can jump out and jump in. Let me try that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, try that and see what happens. And while Michael Dean is working on that, I'm going to continue reading Dana, because Dana had more to say. The more notable people that I will be mentioning is Lady Gaga and her. Lady Gaga had blatantly mentioned that Prince is her inspiration, and you can clearly see the effect Prince had on her and her wildly interesting music videos. Her is a huge fan of Prince and claims him as her #1 influence. She even showed up to the Oscars in an outfit reminiscent of what Prince once wore. Prince is extremely influential and should be brought up more, especially in today's era. During the makings of the exhibit, it has shown me how to communicate and have a better work ethic. Above all, it's been extremely helpful with keeping me consistent and on track, which is something I struggle with. I really appreciate this job because it not only connects me to Prince, but through music better. I got a better understanding of the genres I love because of him. Not only that, but his expression and the way he puts himself out there makes me want to dress accordingly and act accordingly. I want to be more outgoing and more creative with my style. Thanks to the curating of this exhibit, I am learning to become more myself. Those are such powerful words from Dana Prado. I am learning to become more myself. And that's actually one of the reasons why I'm a Prince fan, because for me, Prince always was unapologetically himself. And, you know, we have to wear the masks, and we know who we're talking about in society. And then being a female and Black, you have to wear all these different masks. And Prince is just a constant reminder of me to become more of myself, even though I still subscribe to the notion that in certain spaces you cannot be yourself, even though people say, oh, bring your authentic self. Oh, no, you can't bring your authentic self. So we have to code switch. Everybody should know what that is. And I just loved all of these really gems from Dana. She did a really great job.
Dana is really awesome, and she was really one of the people to also really like what she was listening to and be curious to know what other songs she should endeavor to go into. So I really appreciate her response, because it kind of shows, like, if people really kind of have to be curious. And that's one thing I told the folks in the beginning, like, you have to be curious about music if you're engaging Prince, because this dude fought out music every day. Like, that's all he did. All he did was play music. Like, I mean, yeah, you see him and he was not really involved in a scandal per se. You know, Prince was literally just touring. He was touring, he was rehearsing, he was at the show, he was there before the show, he did an after show. Like, the band didn't like it so much because they never had to sleep, you know. But like, Prince was like, music. And not all of it, to your point, D'Angelo, you know, not all Prince music is good for a lot of people. People are like, oh. And he has a lot of music where you can even skip a whole era. You could skip, you don't even have to listen to, you know, all of it if you wouldn't want to do that. But that's a great comment right there. Prince's individuality sparked us to embrace our individualism. Yeah, because we all have those different moods that we can enter into based off of Prince's music too. And so it sort of like balances itself out. I personally like the journey, and I wanted, and only Dana and another student was willing to do this. Because I said, you know what you really could do? And this is a big challenge because, you know, I'm like, you should listen to Prince's album from For You to Phase 2. Wow. Just listen to all of the 42 records that he did, not including the Time and Sheila E. and all of the stuff that wasn't released. Just go with what he released and then make your assessment of what you prefer or what you think you listen to the most. But that is a journey in itself, but you're going to find those different emotional connections that may not be placed in every single era.
Wow.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear this.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Michael.
I was saying I couldn't imagine what that would be like if I had never had heard Prince before and I got into him after he passed, and it was like all of this music, and somebody was like, start at the top. Like, whoa.
Yeah. But people stay in the 80s due to, you know, Warner Brothers having that image of Purple Rain, and the movie, of course, is connected to that. And so a lot of people just stay there. But that was Prince, 5 years in his career? I mean, he wasn't, not even that. It's just, he was not really even blossomed as much, you know. So if you skip honestly, I tell people you could just go from 2000, go from Prince like in 2000 to 2016, 2015, 15 years of Prince. Like that is a more of a summary of just kind of how he grew as an artist throughout those times. I mean, the 90s is very important, and I love the 90s stuff. But I think for young folks, when they listen to an album, a lot of them, they just, sometimes they're thrown off by like these hour and 30-minute albums. So you listen to a 30-minute album or just an hour album and just vibe out to it.
Right on.
Yeah.
So I want to read another student, Jaden Stuckey. And
Jaden, oh goodness. This
Jaden says, I'm a junior, the student ambassador. My experience of being a part of the Prince exhibit was fascinating. I already knew who Prince was because I saw him do the Super Bowl, and I heard Purple Rain and a couple of other songs. I'm curious, Jesse, was this sort of did most students kind of hear about Purple Rain, or did they
That's the only thing they knew, yeah. Purple Rain is like, oh, and then some of them said they didn't even know who Prince was until he passed. Like they heard, and they kept trying to figure out why they're comparing him to Michael Jackson. Like that was a very recurring theme. Like, did he have something against Michael Jackson? I'm like, Prince, I don't believe had anything against Michael Jackson. Now, I do believe there was competition, and Prince was like, I mean, I can produce my music and I can play, so you can't compare me to nobody. That would include Michael Jackson, clearly, because Prince, I mean, is that even a debate, right? So like Prince, but I don't believe there was any antagonism per se. I just think Prince was confident in his abilities, and yeah. And shout out to Jamila, who's saying 2000s is her preference. I mean, I know that. Yeah, expectation. Awesome. Yeah, is.
So let's see. Jane continues to say, during this exhibit, I got to see who was Prince. I learned what he meant and his impact on other people's lives. Didn't understand his music. Prince is one of those artists you must sit down and listen to. Tell him, Jaden, you must sit down and listen to. I found out that this guy went into different genres. Being a part of this exhibit did push me out of my comfort zone. I've got to meet new people and brainstorm with many other people. I really can't compare Prince to somebody who is in my generation because I like music that's older than me. But I would compare Prince to who? Drum roll, Little Richard. Why? Because Prince and Little Richard were precisely alike, down to the outfits and how they dominated the stage. They didn't care how people thought of them. Prince inspired artists to own and master their music. Tell him, Jaden. He encourages artists to be themselves.
I love that.
Jaden is dope. Jaden is out here like really crushing them. He has a huge afro too, a nice like farm afro, and he's just like, but he likes that R&B 90s music. Like, so he's like, man, I love Bobby Brown, New Jack Swing.
Okay.
So so I'm like, well, you gonna like this Diamonds and Pearls thing because you hear something like Get Blue, it makes Babyface look kind of like who's Babyface? But yeah, like I mean, shout out to Babyface. I'm not Babyface's production, but like, come on, y'all, like. So like he was able to really appreciate even something like New Power Soul, like Shoe Do. He really liked Wasted Kisses. He's like, man,
that's like, my son right there.
Yeah, right. I was like, New Power Soul is where it's at. If you want like that 90s R&B Prince or even Space, I was like, listen to the Space Universal Love remix. Like there are ways of accessing that sound that Prince did, but you have to kind of go back. It's not widely available, A lot of this stuff he just put as a B-side. Like She's Always in My Hair. They really, out of all the songs they really identify with a lot, they really like She's Always in My Hair.
Really?
Like, it's not even on an album. It's a B-side. It's a B-side to, what is it, Raspberry Parade? But like, Prince had bangers, but they weren't always on his albums. Or sometimes they got leaked, or, they were shared elsewhere, or another artist did it. So
yeah. So I personally can't speak to this because I haven't listened to Get Blue yet because I'm waiting.
Ever? Before it leaked?
Yeah, before it leaked. So this is where you can get a little bit
Wow.
into my psyche, Jesse, because you don't know me. But the first thing you'll learn about me is that first and foremost, I'm a live Prince fan. I listen to the rehearsals, I listen to the after shows, and I live there. It's really hard for me to get to an album. and I guess the album that I love listening to as an album is actually Controversy. And I like listening to Dirty Mind as an album, and also the Rainbow Children as an album. And also there's another one, the Black Album as an album.
Ooh,
but almost anything else, I want to listen to
sexy? What?
Live after shows, live. Okay. But I love me some love songs. So, I mean, there are actually a lot of songs I mean, especially a lot of vault tracks I still haven't listened to, because I just play songs on loop. Like for about 3 months, I was listening to one version of Super Funky Califragisexy, like hours upon hours upon hours upon hours.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So yeah, and that's the reason why I get in trouble, because like I'll say, I don't listen to Purple Rain the album. I'd rather listen to the rehearsals. I love the Purple Rain rehearsals.
The rehearsals are fire. That's better than the album. I will agree with you on that.
Better than the album. I don't listen to the Sign of the Times album. I'd rather watch Sign of the Times live on concert or listen to the rehearsals. So that's kind of how I roll. I love live Prince. And that's what's, I think, is really great. Hearing your students say that they connected more with him as a live performer, than, maybe some of the albums, because, I mean, he's just, you can't beat Prince live. I mean, it's nothing like it. It really isn't. It's super, super special. So I really want to give another shout out again to Jaden. He said so much in just one paragraph, and I really love that he knew who Little Richard was, that he could clearly see that Little Richard was an influence on Prince.
Absolutely. And he said, it was a picture that he saw of Prince with, when Prince is in the bathtub or in the shower and you see the cross. That's the one he was like, man, what's this guy doing? Like and he thought of Little Richard. And I'm like, yeah, Prince, clearly no one cannot deny Little Richard's influence. And Little Richard was very much also a spiritual man, just like Prince was a spiritual man. They didn't really see the diffusion, like, oh, I can't present myself as this because I'm spiritual. It's like, I believe in God, but I'm wearing a Speedo on stage. Yeah, deal with it.
Okay, I just want to give a shout out to Anna Sweden, listening from Sweden. That's very cool. Awesome. So I want to read another student. And this is Vivian Verley. And Vivian says, I'm Vivian Verley, a student which an art teacher recommended and led me into the Prince Project. Over the summer, we helped to develop ideas for the exhibit and did research for various aspects of the upcoming projects, such as a gift shop merch or the cataloging of many items that would be presented in the gallery. It was a good experience, as I was exposed to a creative workspace while also being with people my age, but it was also a bit strange to me. To be honest, I had no idea who Prince was before getting into the internship, and it was a learning process all throughout. Still, a reason I was interested in this project was my interest in art. Being an artist myself, I was looking forward to learning about Prince and his artistry, processes, and inspirations, and understanding why he is so impactful. He is unique in his craft. Love this. He is unique in his craft. I would say singular and personality, and seemed very passionate about his music. I can tell by the variety of genres that it was his calling. Oh my God, I just love that. A discography so full of range and emotions could only come from someone who likes doing what they do. I cannot say so much about his person, but I recognize that there are many layers to him. Instead of comparing him to someone in our generation, I decided to make a connection between a famous yet older band, Pink Floyd. They're a group that I got into recently, but I'm amazed about their work and history the more I discover. Their songs are full of meaning and emotion, and some albums even tell stories. something that Prince also did in some points of his career. I'm pretty sure he was inspired by the band when paying attention to instrumentals and intensity. Now, Jesse, this one really spoke to me because I am a massive Pink Floyd fan. And in fact,
nice.
Pink Floyd got me through Georgia Tech. That was my first undergraduate degree. And Animals is my favorite Pink Floyd. And Vivian hit it on the nose. There's this intensity. She used the word intensity. And also, there's a lot of instrumental, even in the songs with words, a lot of instrumental passages in Pink Floyd's music. And I think it's also full of meaning and emotion. So I really loved this Pink Floyd connection. But even on top of that, I loved that she said that she wonders, if Prince also liked Pink Floyd. And that was actually a question. If I could have had a conversation with Prince, I would want to talk about Betty Davis, like what was, Prince's connection with Betty Davis's music. And my second question would have been, was he into Pink Floyd and did he connect to Pink Floyd's music? It's a question I've always wanted to ask if I had the opportunity to have a conversation. And Vivian wonders this too. So I was like, Vivian's my girl. Vivian's amazing. And then also, I just really loved when she says that he is unique in his craft and personality and seemed very passionate about his music. I can tell by the variety of genres that it was his calling. A discography so full of range and emotions could only come from someone who likes doing what they do. That is so powerful.
Vivian is probably, Vivian is cool. And she was probably one of the biggest. Vivian and Dana particularly really was like, they're like, I want to hear more stuff. Like, this is really good. And she really liked Alice Through the Looking Glass, the recent single that was released from Diamonds and Pearls. She really liked, she's like, oh, the bass. She's like, she really liked bass. And I'm like, yeah, well, if you want bass, I can give you some bass with Prince, because Prince was all about. So I suggested What's My Name from Crystal Ball, or just like these tracks where you hear bass just kind of flutter through. It's not necessarily a song you would think is primarily bass, but it's like all in there, like Hard Rock Lover. There's another song that she really liked. She's like, wow. I think it was Hard Rock Lover that made her make a Pink Floyd connection, because it's like the way he's playing this guitar, it sounds so like he's angry, but it sounds very like passionate and loving at the same time. And I'm like, yeah. And I have heard some Pink Floyd. I can admit I'm not that well versed into Pink Floyd. But their song Money and Time those are two of my favorite Pink Floyd songs. But I was just like, yeah, so she was able to connect Prince also through like the era of just rock and roll music, like Prince being the drummer, Prince being the bass guitarist, Prince being the guitarist and being the singer, and then using all of those instruments as a way to be like on stage. Of course, Prince couldn't do it on stage by himself. So he had a band that complemented that. So one show I had them watch was the musicology show with Rhonda. When you see Rhonda, Rhonda get that bass, and she's like, oh, like, look, she's tearing it up. I'm like, yeah, she's going to be just as good, if not better, if she with Prince, because everybody in his band, he's not going to have you there if you can't meet him where he's at, or at least be willing to get there quick. So it was really the live experience, I think, again, for them when they were connecting with the band and seeing the changes of the band, because, of course, the new Power generation, many different iterations of that, the 90s with Sonny T and Michael B, and then you got John Blackwell. But they were able to register with the consistency of how the band sounded good, like John Blackwell. So playing like, All the Critics Love You in Montreux, 2009, or all of these specific performances that I remember watching when I got into Prince, because again, my experience with music is widely different. I was raised in the Church of God in Christ, Pentecostal. You can't listen to none of that devil's music. Prince was the devil's music, okay? So I was not listening to him until later. And when I finally engaged, I'm like, wow, I can really hear these instruments, like what he did on the organ, what he did on the guitar. Like it sounded, I could really register with it. And there were these particular performances, and I just would still say Montreux 2009 was one of the best shows Prince ever did, which is a good range of like how well his band was playing, like Renato Neto and John Blackwell, and they all contributed and made it just like, yeah, Prince is killing it, but if Prince leaves the stage, Renato got it, or John Blackwell got it, or Cassandra O'Neill has it. So he made it just as important to work with musicians that love music as much as he did.
Yeah, and I'm seeing this Panic Survivor saying, I hope Open Book will be on the DMP, and it is.
And that was a song that Prince told me. I remember working a teleprompter in 2015, and he didn't play this song, but I came in for rehearsal, and he's like, "Did you see I added a song to the list?" And I'm like, "No." And then I saw it, and it was Open Book, but he didn't play it. He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Wow, you gonna do that? You gonna play it?" He just kind of looked at me like, and he didn't play it. But it's good. It's cool to know that he was thinking of potentially bringing that back towards the like that. That's the song he was vibing at. So.
Now Jesse, now Jerome. You just threw that in there. We were at rehearsal, and then I just take us back real quick, man. Like, come on, you can't just throw that out.
Okay, well, this was
like being there doing that.
That was amazing. I mean, I enjoyed that. Probably out of all the experiences I had with Prince, that was my favorite because I'm all about the music, right? And so, like, seeing Prince in the studio, or just, in Paisley Park rehearsing, he was with Donna Grantis, of course, and Mono Neon, Kirk on the drums, and Prince is on the piano and guitar. But this was like around November of 2015. So he had the same band that was doing Black is the New Black. So Adrian, that's who I'm missing. So it was Adrian, Mono Neon, Donna, Kirk, and Prince. And I was just there to run the teleprompter because at the time Prince was thinking of having this side band as a complement to his piano and microphone shows. I mean, this didn't end up happening, but again, he was still, Prince working all the time. So they were still at rehearsals. So I would come out to rehearsals and he had me basically be the one to change the songs that he was going into. So because I was very aware of all of the songs, it's like, okay, so once I go into Rough Enough, I need you to pull up the lyrics for Rough Enough to keep me on pace. So Rough Enough to rehearsals of some of the rehearsals I remember him jamming to, This Could Be Us, Rough Enough, Use Me by Bill Withers, Stare, $1 Million Show. And so I was there just basically changing the lyrics so that he can go into it. And so that particular rehearsal, he told me he had added to the set list Open Book from, what was taken from Martika. And shout out to I'm so glad Martika's Kitchen and Spirit and all these songs from the early 90s, like those are my favorite, some of my favorite Prince songs. Like
Don't Say You Love Me.
And so Don't Say You Love Me. I mean, exactly. Like those are like Prince doing New Jack Swing to the best of his way. So yeah, so the fact that he told me he was going to put Open Book on there, that is a song. I'm not sure if you've heard that, D'Angelo, since you listen to albums.
No.
Open Book. Open Book is a song. Again, I heard it as a bootleg, but I remember really it's such a, if you know Martika's Kitchen album, which is one of my favorite albums from the 90s.
Yep, I know.
She has a song called, okay. So, so she has a song on that album called Take Me to Forever. And there's about 2 verses in that song that is from Open Book. Prince took, I believe he wrote obviously Open Book, and then she took that song and made her own version of it, where she took some of the lyrics from it. But yeah, that's just
nice, man. Thank you for sharing that, man.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
Was cool.
I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine what it must have been like to be there when Prince was rehearsing, because like I said, that's my favorite Prince.
Nerve-wracking.
Nerve-wracking. Talk to us about that.
Because you want to make sure you're listening, like you're jamming. There was a time he was jamming to Extra Lovable, and then I don't know how he flipped it into something. What was the song that he went into? Maybe it was Stare into Extra Lovable, but it was so smooth, and he was just like jamming, and he's like, and I'm behind him, or he's in front of me, and I'm behind him. So he's jamming, and then he turns around, he's like, where are the lyrics? So I'm like, oh, that's right. Where are the lyrics? So like you jam, but at that moment, it wasn't actually my fault. The computer was actually
Yeah.
Like I was like, I can't find it. I don't know. And then Trevor came over. He was trying to help me. He's like, oh, the computer crashed. And so he was like, all right, well. So it's like, you could jam. He's like, you could dance. I'm like, all right, let me be a part of this show. Because I feel like I'm not doing my job right, and it's not me.
Was you sweating?
Yes, I was sweating. And he was just like, no, it's cool. You can jam. I remember him saying, it's cool. You can jam. You can jam with us, you know. Because I couldn't find it. Because he just like, where are the lyrics? I'm like, they're not here. So it was nerve-wracking just to make sure you knew what he was getting into, while also, you know, being a smooth transition, you know, because he was, and rehearsals, I feel like Prince was definitely like figuring out different ways he can perform a song. Because I remember once he like went into like this, one of my favorite memories is like just hearing him solo for like however long for $1 Million Show. Like just like trying to get what he was trying to get with it, and him and Adrian are going back with each other. Adrian is on the flute, and they're like following each other, and Prince is just going like higher and higher. Just like he seemed to be very much in like a discovery when he was rehearsing. Like, what is this going to be? Is it going to go this way? Is it not? You know, what can I add in that folks are familiar with? You know, it was
damn.
like
You was there, brother. He was right there, man. It was cooking. You was right there.
Yeah, man.
Hey, man.
Like, yeah.
Oh,
so I have a
question.
Yeah. So when, especially when he was like, you were on the teleprompter and he was performing, did you sometimes miss cues because you just got engrossed in the performance and the music? Did that happen ever?
Only that one time. Because I was like, only when you say where are the lyrics. Generally, I was listening, and I made sure, you know, the songs were, so it was. But then what he decided after a while, before he just disabandoned the whole idea of having a band, is that he had an iPad, and that's what he did when he was doing piano on a microphone. He had an iPad that he was doing it to, so I was not even needed. But I'm glad I was there for, what was that, like 2 weeks or whatever, because that was cool. But then eventually. They told me, it's like, oh, well, Prince is going to do that on an iPad because it's easier. He could just like, you know, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So it's cool. But no, I was on it because it was very nerve-wracking. And then a lot of times he would jam. He might do a rehearsal for like 30 minutes and he's like, break. And then he leaves for like, and I remember, I'll never forget this story. Like, so he left, he like finished the solo or whatever. And he was like, all right, break. And then he left. And I'm like, what do we do? And then Donna's like, you have a book or something you want to bring? Because he could be gone for like an hour, 30 minutes, you know, it could be 2 hours, you know, like we don't know. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I started bringing, I remember 1 week I started bringing my books because sometimes, he would be gone for like an hour or 30 minutes. That particular day, he came back in like an hour. So I was just like chilling around until he came back. But
wow. Yeah. I love it, man. The fact that you be so humble about this, you know what I'm saying? Like, that says a lot about you, man. Salute to you, sir.
Thank you. Well, I think, you know, it's all an experience. And that's what I look at it as. It's an experience. And for me, Prince is not to be idolized. He's to be acknowledged and celebrated. But, you know, you can reflect on how he presented himself, how he dealt with people. It was mutual respect. I mean, that's kind of what he helped me see that, because I was still like, in my blown away stage for a lot of it. And it wasn't until like at that show, it was a November 7th show. I actually wrote about it on my website where I talk about like, because the students wanted to know what my experience was. And I had to remind them, like, I was not Prince's friend. I was not like his homie. We didn't hang out. We didn't go out. He didn't say, yo, you want to like, I worked with him. It was not like I could call him and this is the case for most people. Let's clarify, like Prince he called the shots. You know, once you knew you were reaching out, or once you were going to be reached out to, you were reached out to. It wasn't like you reached out to him. He did that. He sort of like catered that. But for what it was worth, Prince, it was a thing where he felt open. If he felt open with you, he would speak to you. And one moment I told him, like the one moment I felt like, oh, I was being criticized by Prince or called out was during the November 7th show. When, you know, this is when I did a tour with the European journalists that came out to hear the first iteration of the piano and microphone before it was going to go to Europe and France and Italy. It was going to be a Europe debut. then he changed it because of the ticket scalping, and then there was some terrorist attack, some event that happened in France where he called it off. But they had all these European journalists came out to Paisley Park, and I gave them a tour, and so after I finished the tour, we concluded in the Love for One Another room, where Prince came out with his guitar on his back, and he walked to the stage, and he got on the stage and he started playing the piano for him. So of course he invited them to come, the journalists, but me being like, oh, okay, I'll be with the journalists, see what this interview is about. So I go along with the journalists, and Prince is like talking for a bit. He probably talks for he maybe says 7 sentences. Then he looks at me and he's like, we'll talk later. I'm like, okay. So I'll go into the sound stage. I'm like, okay, man. I'm like, I didn't know what to think of that moment, because I'm like, man, Prince just like, because it was just such a just quiet, and he's like, we'll talk later. It was such a demanding voice. And then that show, so I remember after that, like after he finished talking with them, Trevor gave me like the program of the tour dates. He's like, it's happening, man. You're going to be on tour with him. He's going to do this. It's going to be a real thing. He's really just going to perform with the piano. It's just going to be Prince. And, it's happening. And I was just like, wow, I couldn't believe I was so happy, but I was still kind of like, what is he talking to me about? Like, what's this conversation about? Or is it going to be more so about me? Like, I didn't know how to feel about it. I was very overjoyed by the whole experience. And after that show, we went to see 007 at the theater that he had. And I remember seeing him in the hallway, and he just kind of like gave me a head nod. And, I think his whole thing was just like, you're here now. You don't have to be freaked out about anything. You're going to be, just as you're here for a reason. And my last meeting with Prince, which was right after the piano microphone, before he went off and took it to New Zealand and Australia, which that was my last time actually seeing Prince live, was in New Zealand. But when I was still at Paisley Park, after he finished the shows, the last day of the gala, the 23rd, he called me in and he brought me the CDs, and we talked. And that's when he told me about, doing what inspires you. Like, don't look for me to release a new album. I've already released the album. Like, it's time for you to put in your work into to showing what you're doing, and to communicate that with the people who I was going to see at Perkins. He's like, you sell the CDs and you keep the profit. And I'm like, what? Like, what you mean I keep the profit? But he's like, you don't have to rely on me. The music is already done. Just give the music out. People need to hear this stuff. And it was really a telling message, because even from them, Prince has always been about people doing what inspires them. Like, don't hang on my coattail, because I'm gonna be doing me. What are you doing? What is your contribution? And that's, I think, a message we can all learn from, to do what inspires you. What is your thing? And it happened to be around that time I was going to New Zealand to do a project called Characters in the Wind, and I was going to be gone for 3 months, which was kind of insane, because I just started working for Prince really closely. But I'm like, I feel this inspiration to go to New Zealand for 3 months, and he happened to go to New Zealand. So it was cool. I mean, and I actually was able to get into that show along with 2 of my friends, which was really cool that they worked that out for me to see him that last time. But it was just sort of like, like going after what you want to do, doing what inspires you brings a result, as opposed to just being like living in a cloud, wondering if you're going to be rained on. So yeah.
He gave you some major game right there, and gave you the work to go and get some money. Like, here, take these records, go on, and man. Okay.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, now, but I didn't know that when I was going to give this message to the folks at Perkins. They're like,
right,
who are you? What you mean? Prince told you to keep profit. Like, everyone looked at me like it was silly. And I'm like, well, and eventually that's what ended up happening with the peer-to-peer distribution, Hit and Run Phase 2. There were folks who were able to make a considerable amount of change. And I knew, even though I did sell that box, right? It was like 25 CDs, and I did get rid of those. I mean, I kept profit from that. But I knew when I went to New Zealand, I was not going to be selling those Phase 2 boxes. I'm like, Prince, I appreciate you giving me these boxes. I'll sell this box. But in New Zealand,
he was giving you the work.
I know. And there were folks that did do that, and I'm appreciative of those that actually took control of that. Because at that time you could go to Paisley Park, they give you some boxes, and then you give him half, and then you keep the other But I was just appreciative of him running that to me so I can let the folks know what it was. But I was more like, okay, I'm taking this as a lesson that Prince is doing. He's passing the baton, so to speak. He's like, follow what you want to do. Like, and so for the students, when I was in the process of them, like Prince was a mentor in the sense that he knew that when he worked with someone, he wanted them to take in all those experiences, like be a sponge. Like, this is your moment to collect all you need to collect, because this is not going to last forever, you know. And that's kind of how it was in the Prince world. You'd be around, and then 2-3 years, cut, new era, new change, no hair, maybe long hair, short hair. Like, you're not around because it's a different scenery. So take what you can take while you're here, and then, you know, pass it on. And so that's, and I think that's a great way of learning not to be attached to moments, or to not, you know, hold these memories that contaminate your future experience, because you're still going after something that happened already. Like, don't stay there, keep it going. That's what Prince was about, like, continue, grow, evolve. Because the more you do that, you're more understanding to the new challenges. You can't be understanding to new challenges if you're afraid of going into the future. You just want to stay where you are, you know. So.
Yeah, that's very Zen. You know, in terms of, you know, no attachment and all of that. So, I mean, I was going to ask you, especially since there's been some time since a lot of time has passed since your time with Prince, and I was curious, you know, like what has remained, like when you think of Prince, you know, what lessons come to mind with your time, and I'm assuming that that's one of them. Are there any others?
Recently I was just in this, because I consider myself a writer, and I've written 2 books, and I think of how Prince, he wrote these lyrics out. Like, he wrote them out. So I've been lately more inspired to continually write my thoughts. I have all these different journals for various reasons, but I'm more inspired to be consistent in the calling of, since I see myself as a writer, that means to put in that work to write out these thoughts. I mean, because it's kind of like how Prince talks about his music, similar to me, and how I hear words, or how I want to frame some examination or an essay or something. So, like, I'm just going through the work to remember how important that is, to stay consistent in that, and to not let, you know, because at times he was like, I'm in studio rehab. Like, I've been rehearsing so much, I'm in rehab. I'm trying to take it easy. I want to get to that point where I'm like, my hands hurt, but I have a double, because I write and I sew buttons. So I have these 2 things where I do all the time. So I'm finding a way to do those 2 things in a way that is in harmony with each other, where I get joy out of it. Like, I feel like Prince really did get joy out of playing music. It was definitely his medium, his connection to source. And it is the same way for me when I write, or if I'm taking time to just sew buttons. Like, I feel like I'm connecting to a higher purpose, and I am putting in what makes me feel good, you know. And we all have these different things we can access. Some of us are singers, some of us are hairstylists, some of us are, you know, tech engineers, whatever our thing is. How are you doing that in a way that reflects positivity in your life? For Prince, clearly it was a lot of work for him to rehearse and to constantly perform and to constantly always have this makeup of being a rock star. But I think he was able to realize at some point he had no other choice, you know, like, that was his calling. So whatever comes with that, you take that, but you commit to the work. And so my work, again, I'm an organizer as well, where I find it important for me to, you know, look at systematic issues, find out ways we can approach that in a way that is humanistic, where we're not just being exploited constantly, but we can do something about that exploitation. Rather, we can collect our minds. And, you know, what did Prince say? Reproduction of the new breed, leader, stand up, organize. So like, that's another thing he's helped me do, is like, center yourself, because Prince clearly had to have some structure in his life for him to go through these eras simultaneously. He saw the vision, he saw the dream, whatever it was, and he went with it. He didn't just let it fester and then just sit with it. Like Purple Rain, he could have took that for 2-3 years easily. He's like, no, we're gonna go around the world in a day. And then after that, we go on the parade. And then after that, we go on the Sign of Times. And if you can't make me do Crystal Ball, then I'm gonna do the Black Album. And if I can't do that because I have a spiritual epiphany, it's gonna be Love Sexy. Like, he was literally like, okay, what's the next thing? How am I gonna, you know? So that consistency, that drive, to me, I think a lot of people can get inspiration with, because I can imagine how hard it was, and he definitely did pay the price for a lot of those decisions. I mean, it wasn't easy for him in the 90s, especially, like changing his name and being called crazy and not really having the support of the industry, and, you know, playing smaller arenas because you can't sell out. People don't know who you are. You are really like, don't call me Prince. Prince is dead. Like, those bold decisions had consequences, but at the end, he stuck with it. He made, you know, he kind of, like what he did with SoundScan with the musicology thing, where he's like, okay, everybody comes to my show, gets an album that counts as a sale. Like, he was finding out ways to still get what he wanted. And then, you know, come 2014 and 15, you know, he ended up getting his master's. And I think at that point, he realized, like, looking back at his journey, he's like, okay, you know, and man, like the piano microphone, now I'm sharing with you my life. Now I'm sharing with you my journey. And I feel like he was confident, he was comfortable in what he had left at that point, because when you really look at it, again, if you were to look at it chronologically and see all of the things he went through and how it all folded up, like he started out with this huge rounded Afro moon, ended it on that small, you know, that big Afro moon at the end too. It was just like a whole return. And I think that to me is something I keep with me, like with Prince, is that the more you stay faithful to something, when you're consistent with it, it returns in its original form.
Yeah, so that reminded me of something that I actually wanted to talk about in terms of Dana's that I read, but I forgot to highlight. When she said, during the makings of this exhibit, it has shown me how to communicate and have a better work ethic. Above all, it's been extremely helpful with keeping me consistent and on track, which is something I struggle with. And, you know, you just talked about consistency, and I think consistency is so important. And having a practice, you know, a daily or weekly practice is so important in any artistic pursuit, to have that consistency. So again, thank you for reminding me to bring that up. Now, I have one more student that I want to talk about, and this is the final one. Even though there were more students, it's not all the students actually, but I just have to end on Princess, because Princess. My name is Princess. I love that. My name is Princess. Okay, so Princess Olivia Clark. I am 16 years old and I am a junior. My mother is Guyanese and my father is Jamaican, so I have a Caribbean background. My father was a major Prince fan, which made me want to learn more about him. Working at the exhibit helped me to do that. The music I currently listen to is mainly musical theater, so the album that I was recommended was Crystal Ball. Before listening to the album, all I really knew about Prince was he made Purple Rain and Kiss, and that drag queens liked him. After listening to the album, I realized I might like him a bit more than I thought I would. I found myself unknowingly tapping my foot into the music. The exhibit did open my eyes to who Prince really was.
Yeah, Princess. I was like, you like musical theater, and for whatever reason, I thought of Crystal Ball. But I also thought of Strays of the World. I was like, you should listen to Strays of the World, because it just has this theatrical feel. And she's like, yeah, I like how, like, his like the Come album itself to me is, I mean, he had plans to do, was it Come Ulysses, or some extension of that. So I think that album she really enjoyed, because she found it interesting how Prince had these, you know, each song he had this poem that he would say before, and it felt like he was like preparing you for the experience. And she really appreciated, you know, Crystal Ball for all it's worth. I mean, again, that song, hearing Crystal Ball for the first time, like, and it's like, yeah, Prince did that by himself. Just one day, just decided to make this masterpiece, you know, and it gives people like an entry into his mind, because it's not all the time you hear an artist just like, hey, here's a 10-minute song, or here's a 5-minute song that's different in context and not what you're used to hearing. And so, yeah, I think she really enjoyed, in particular, Strays of the World. And I think that's the song I feel like Prince fans are the Strays of the World. Like we're all like, we all have our like weird connection to Prince, and we're the freaks on this side too, so to speak. And Prince sort of like put a place. I mean, I was listening to the lyrics of Paisley Park recently, and it just really, I was like, wow. To think that Paisley Park, which is a place he built in 1986, and it was fully construction in 1987, and he basically stayed in that factory, building, creating music, but the lyrics talk about it being, a place where you can find all these different people. And Paisley itself, you think of Paisley, you think of transformation, like all these different shapes having different forms. That's essentially what Prince that's the life he lived. All these different shapes, all these different colors, all these different ideas sort of like merged into one sound or some purple music, so to speak. And it's something folks can really identify with if they open there. It's like, the price of admission is in your heart, so you're willing to take that toll.
I think when you talk to Princess again, I would also recommend that she listen to 3 Chains of Gold, the song.
Yes, of course. See,
that would be
I forget about that one.
And then another song I think that not song, but album that I think she might like is Parade. Yes. I could see someone who's into musical theater really being into Parade, but I really think that she'd love 3 Chains of Gold. I think it's a masterwork, and no one ever talks about it. I don't know why.
See, it just, when I hear songs like that, I'm like, man, see? And I don't even know if I recommended 3 Chains of Gold, which is crazy because that is a great example of Prince and his like theater approach, how he sometimes went there just to remind people, I can go there if you want me to. Like, I can do it. It's, I might not do it forever, but I can do it on this song, and it speaks for itself. So, yeah, that would be a good
awesome. So this is a picture I showed last week, but I'm going to show it again for those of you who weren't with us. So this is us at the opening, me and Jesse, and you can see Rich in the back with the hat, and Tracy, who's in the chat today, and we got, Chris Rob. Yeah. So it was a really great opening. Really love the exhibition. And again, if you want to hear more about Jesse, Michael Dean has already done that because Michael Dean has interviewed everybody. And Michael Dean
it like a job, man.
Yes.
Crazy. You got all the interviews.
Yes. And then I did find in this other interview that you did with Rich.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
A couple of years back. So you can check that out as well. It's also in the playlist. And I also, we talked about this, but I didn't have in the slide deck last time. So we had Miles Marshall Lewis with us last week, and Michael Dean has already had, a conversation with Miles about the Ebony magazine. So if you want a deeper dive, because someone in the chat said that they wanted more Miles, and Michael's already done more Miles. So you can find that there, and I added to the playlist. And then I forgot to talk about Funkotopia's interview with Scott McCullough, which I haven't listened to. Well, I talked about it, but I didn't have it in the slide deck. So you can look at it. And then tonight, for those of you who are in Inglewood, if I was on the West Coast, I would be here at film screening and Under the Cherry Moon with Jerome Benton. This is where I would be, but I'm going to be here at Princess tonight. If all goes well, I can't wait. It's going to be a fantastic show. And for those of you who don't know, to the right is Maya Rudolph, and Maya is the daughter of one of my favorite singers, actually my first album of all time, Minnie Riperton's Minnie.
Minnie Riperton.
Her daughter.
Amazing. Then, oh my goodness.
Also, there's so much purple world going on. Like,
Vegas experience. What? I never heard of this.
Yeah. Yes. Morris did an interview recently with Dr. Funkenberry, where he was promoting the event. So if you haven't checked that out, this is a really good interview with Dr. Funkenberry. And then we already talked about this, but I'm very excited about Andrea Swenson's new book that's coming out in May about Purple Rain, because I love my books. And This is funny, Kyle. I'm assuming you're talking about 3 Chainz of Gold, the black man's.
Wow.
It's,
Y'all wrong for that.
yeah. All right. So 28 days, and actually counting is the key part, because I probably won't be getting it in 28 days because I didn't get express shipping because I was trying to save those dollars. But I can't wait for these 12 LPs to hold the box set in my hands.
And you got the vinyl LP. Oh, wow.
Of course I did. I'm all about the vinyl, Jesse.
Yeah, I got it.
I'm all about the vinyl, and also I'm also all about books. I'm a bibliophile. My husband hates me when we move because
I'm about to say books are cool until you move. I had to get away. Give her like so many books I had to leave since I've moved many places. Like,
yeah, I can't let them go, and I have let go of some books, but then I buy them back. So now I'm really careful of what books I give away, because it's like, this doesn't make any sense to keep buying the same book over.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, but I actually got I got the vinyl and the CDs because that's what I always do. And if you haven't, you can still pre-order, obviously, to be in the know. And I just want to remind everyone that we're going to have our 2-day virtual celebration for Diamonds and Pearls Super Deluxe on December 9th and 10th to give everybody some time to get theirs and listen and watch, because for me, it's all about the Blu-ray. And Kim is saying, I'm just getting the CD since the book is 12 by 12. And let's see what else we got. Okay, so I did make a playlist this time around on time, and again, you can find Jesse's interview with Michael Dean and the other one he did with Rich Benson and some other stuff there. I'll add the new tracks that were released. I didn't do that, even though I'm not going to listen to them myself, for those of you who can't wait. And next week, we are going to be reading pages 180 to 184 for week 40 of What Did Prince Do This Week. So, Jesse, is there anything? Oh, actually, Jesse, if you don't mind, like, can you share with us like what your socials are? Like, if also if there's anything you want to promote, like any upcoming things that you're personally doing, or anything that's upcoming with Mentor Newark, anything you like.
On my socials, my website. I have a website, so paradiseclarity.com. For Mentor Newark, if you type in Mentor Newark on your Google or wherever you search, you should find information more about the exhibit there. We're also going to be with the Arts Festival in Newark that's going on right now. So like, there's various programs associated with that. So if you're in the tri-state area, it's like Arts Month in October. So we're going to have programs with them. And yeah, that's. Oh, and I have a podcast with my good friend Jamila. It's Music and We. So if you have anywhere you listen to podcasts, you go to Music and We. You should be able to find that.
What's the podcast about?
So we talk about Michael Jackson and Prince. Okay. We also talk about various other like music. We kind of like dissect the political correlations between these artists and just kind of like the overall. So I've made many different we haven't done one in a while actually, but there's a lot that you can go back and listen to because we've talked about Prince many times, talked about Michael Jackson, Sananda Matria, who I have been listening to. I have a lot of choice words for him. So yeah, anything where you want to talk about music, you go to Music and we get into Metallica. We talk about them a lot too. I've been getting into them a lot because of Jamila. So like listening to all these different types of music and correlating those different lines that intersect between social realities.
So one of my favorite when he was still TTD, Terrence Trent D'Arby.
Vibrator?
Yes, Vibrator.
I saw you mention that. I was like, yeah, Vibrator is the album. Like
it is the album. Yeah. He doesn't, and no one talks about that album. That album is has so many crazy, gorgeous, beautiful songs on it. It's, you know, I don't understand. So
Undeniably, Resurrection.
Undeniably.
Get out of here. But see, the thing is, with Sanada is this guy, like I definitely have thoughts about this man. Like if you follow his career from when he became, before he was Sanada and when, you know, before he was Sanada. So TTD and Sanada Matria, those two careers, they're very interesting to see how he's chosen to go about his career now with the genre of music he produces now that he calls post-millennium rock, which I've heard all of those albums. And I encourage everyone to listen to all of those albums, in addition to, because I will say all of his albums at CTD are flawless. There's no bad song, in my opinion, of his first, all those albums, flawless. The albums he did afterwards, though, at Sanada Matria,
hilarious.
I don't know.
See, I've never even listened to his stuff after that, but I know people that swear by, like, you can't even watch your mouth to say something crazy about him, man. So he has those.
No, but they listen, watch him. How about you go to his channel and watch him perform, and you make your own, you know, assessments. And I'm not denying that he's talented or whatever, but I feel like he's made quotes in the past saying that he's on the same level as Michael Jackson and Prince. And it's like, no,
he talks his shit for sure.
Yeah, he talking shit, but it's like, I mean, Prince didn't have to talk. He did it. You know, if you talking, you got to measure that up with a live performance. And I think, I mean, he's had a very interesting career, honestly, because when he left America, he's been living in Italy for the last 20-some years. So he's definitely have an audience out there. But he knows if he wanted to take post-millennium rock anywhere, it would be in Europe. He could not take it out here, is what I'm saying. Because we want to hear Wishing Well, Sign Your Name, Dance Little Sister, you know, Vibrator, Undeniably. And he writes songs about camels, giraffes, and kangaroos, which I ain't disrespecting that. I love those songs. But for those who are not familiar with those songs, you would probably be, you know, you'll probably have a couple question marks circling around.
So I haven't really been following, you know, like the post CTD. I mean, and I have seen him live, you know, CTD, and I mean, it was a great show. But I'm curious in terms of like his bravado. I know it was really early in his career. Is he still okay? Shot. Because I think that really damaged his career.
Yeah.
It really did. And like, you know, words are extremely powerful. And sometimes you have to be very careful what you say. And, you know, when he emerged on the music scene, a lot of music critics loved him. He was getting a lot of fantastic press. Obviously, he's extremely talented. But then when he started, you know, with the bravado, what I call, you know, his Kanye moments.
Oh, right. Yeah, when he was saying that he's bigger than the Beatles and
all that.
I mean, and I want to apologize because at first I thought you said vibrato. You're speaking of like his how he sees himself.
Oh no, yeah. How he sees himself, bravado.
And he's very much like he's still very confident in his analysis of that. He considers himself Prometheus. You know, if you know anything about Greek mythology, he sees himself as the person who was cast out of his mountain. Because he saw it as him mirroring Muhammad Ali, like I can do it, you know. And so his understanding is interesting, but the way the industry took it, and again, what he's produced, you know, if you're gonna have that kind of bravado, then you have to measure that up by content. Like the music has to speak, like it has to. And for a large extent of his career, I would say people see him as just. I mean, because his first album is the album, like Introducing the Hardline. That's where everyone know him, you know. But how many people are listening to Neither Fish or Flesh? How many people are listening to Symphony or Damn? How many people are listening to Wild Card, which I think is his best album, actually, that he released in 2004.
I love Wild Card. I really do. And I mean, again, this kind of, and we've had this conversation before, and some people don't agree with this, but this is just me. I always separate the person from their art. So like for me, the art stands alone and is, you know, in and of itself, something to deal with on its own. And I think he's made some really brilliant albums, and
Oh yeah, for
he
sure.
just hasn't been talked about. No one talks about him really.
Is it because he said he was better than the Beatles? Is that one of the big things?
And that's who he now claims is his biggest inspiration. Like you can go to his website, on his YouTube channel. He has documentaries. This man has he letting you know if you want to know. Like you go to his website.
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, I respect that he's been vocal about his stand and where he sees himself, because he clearly has a story, and obviously some of those correlations are still impacting him. And if he had it his way, if he really had it his way, Sony would have embraced him, as he claimed they embraced Michael Jackson.
I heard about
but he feels because he was pushed to the side and they saw him, they didn't know what to do with his music. They're like, you're not Lenny Kravitz, you're not Michael Jackson, you're not Prince. So how can we market you to the people?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so he did get a lot of shunned eyes. But I think if folks listen to his career, listen to his music, you know, I love his music, but I know a lot of people, they don't know much about him besides his first album. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's I think it's really funny. I would say what you told one of your students is start from the beginning and work your way through. It's a really interesting journey that he was taking a lot of risks too, and that's why I really respected him. Like musically, he was really pushing himself, and in the meantime, made some really awesome music, in my personal opinion.
Now, Terence D'Arby, that first album came out, that was like a big sort of pop, rock type of thing. I think one thing maybe for him, and again, I only know that first album, and I remember he had a concert video, or it came on MTV, hour-long thing.
Yeah, right.
But I almost felt like he didn't have his bass, he didn't have the black bass to come out of. So when he said probably, and I'm just speculating because I don't follow, when he probably said what he said about them Beatles, I imagine that the white rock industry, he's done. We ain't gonna promote
man,
and without that black bass, he was left out there by himself.
And ironically now, that's who he distances himself from the most, is black people. So like it's like I don't, but I think
what you True to the Game by Ice Cube.
Right. No, what you just said, Michael D, is very imperative to say, because I think he understands that on some level as well. Because if you don't have a base, especially you don't got the black folk, you don't got us. Once the industry say you I mean, and again, he says to this, if you listen to him now, he's like, the Beatles are my father. Like he idolizes the Beatles. He idolizes Rod Stewart. He idolizes Mick Jagger and Bruce Springsteen, like all of these white artists who I'm not saying he should. I mean, he's obviously influenced by them. But when it comes to black artists, zip. Nothing to say about. He's like, I don't want to be compared to James Brown. I'm more like Rod Stewart. I don't want to be compared to Sam Cooke. I'm more like. So he does this active dismissal, which I think is and this is tinfoil hat theory, me psychoanalyzing his societal relationships, or his parasocial relationships. But I do think that is influenced his identity. Again, he's a multiracial man as well, and so he lives in it. He's felt conflict. I actually, funny enough, if you go to my YouTube channel, which I do have on, that's my name here on Jester IX or Jester I7X. I have a 3-part series where I talk about Sonata and what I feel his trajectory is. I actually go into that because I can talk about it. It's a very interesting career he's had, and the decisions he's made. Yeah, it's really
it's really interesting because like when you think about his first album, Introducing the Hardline, which is probably his most famous album, his first album, but then he goes to Neither Fish Nor Fowl. It's really his Around the World in a Day. He totally makes a turn to experimental, and I loved him for that. I was like, that's cool, you know, like that's pretty awesome. So I knew that he was an artist, you know, like he wasn't just like you know, like
a hit maker,
you know, like he was I knew at that time that he was a real musician when he made that turn. And then you know, Symphony or Dam was I don't think I connected as much with it. But when Vibrator hit, I was like, oh man.
Yeah, he was coming out the fire with Vibrator. Vibrator, his voice is like his voice, he had everything. Where it was just like, man. But Sony didn't support that album at all. They basically was like, you not a rock star. Like what about the Sam Cooke songs? What about the, they wanted him to be that pop little figurine, and he definitely rebelled against that. And it didn't help that he thought of himself as being better than, even though he said it was just like him flexing his Muhammad Ali instincts, they saw it as a threat, and he never really recovered from that, really.
Yeah, he never did.
You know that also who probably did it a smarter way? Maxwell. What I mean by that, his first album kind of came up slow, but we loved that. That was our jam. I was like, oh, okay. And that second album, man, okay, you on some. I respect the art. I respect the artistry, but I'm not bumping this. But then it's like, okay, let me come back. I got a bass. I can just go back to my bass to what y'all heard in that first one, and I'm gonna just knock y'all over the head from this moment forward. But we love Maxwell. But he wasn't talking crazy either. Like, he stayed humble with it.
Right.
It kind of seemed like that second album, he went on his Around the World in a Day and was like, where the booty making, where the the love making jams, man. And then he came back and gave us that R&B, and he solidified in the street. He's doing cruises right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's solidified. But anyway.
All right. So we are at our end of our time, and thank you so much, Jesse, for taking time out of your day to come and speak to us, and all the work that you did with the children, because it's so important to keep Prince's name on the lips of the children, because they're going to be the ones who put it on the other, their children's, and like, Prince deserves to be talked about forevermore moving forward. So thank you for all of your work that you're doing with them. And thank you for being you. You're incredible. I mean, your energy is insane. And I just met you, for the opening. And just when you started speaking, I was like, okay, I can tell when someone is just really pure and honest and open. And I could just say, okay, this is someone I can really be friends with. So thank you, Jesse, for being who you are.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Hopefully I can see you tonight, because I do want to see Princess. I heard,
awesome.
Especially the show. Yeah. So
we'll be there. All right.
All right. Awesome. Thank you all for listening. Appreciate all the kind words.
All
right. Live for love.
Yes. That's a
Live for love.
That's a great
Live for love.
Take us out right there.
I'm doing a live version. Say it.
Yeah.